I'm going to tell you a quick story today about one of the interviews that I went for and how I completely messed up. It was a large corporation, in fact one of the largest financial services companies of India, and I was out there to meet the managing director, and I said I'm looking for a placement, and she said, oh yeah, sure, let's talk about it. Now when the interview happened, I wasn't prepared for the company, I hadn't done enough work, I was slightly late. The biggest problem was that when I spoke to her, I spoke as if I seemed to know more than her. I saw the shift in her body language the moment I said what I said. And I was like, oops, I think I'm not getting this job. And sure enough, I didn't get it. So today, I'm going to share with you some interview skills that I have learned over time. So my personal checklist that I'd like to share with you.
Read up about the company. Understand the selection process. Update your CV. Prepare the documents you wish to carry for the interview. Read up on current affairs. What to do a day before the interview. Plan an appropriate attire. Remember the handshake tips. Go through the interview tips I'm going to share with you in this presentation in detail. And finally, reflect on your learning.
The first thing is read about the company. We have enough search engines out there. Go out there, read about them, go to their website, check out what they're all about, who are the clients that they're looking at doing, what are the testimonials saying, what is their vision, why exactly are they looking for the kind of people they're looking for from the business offering that they have. So understand as much as you can about the company. Who is their competition? If it's a listed company, take the time to go through the financial statements, understand what media is saying about them and all of that. Understand the selection process. So before you go in for the interview, if you're talking to the recruitment consultant or you're talking to the company HR themselves, understand from them that usually what is the process that they have. That means, is it going to be a one-on-one discussion? Will it be a panel discussion? Will it be a group discussion? Will there be some sort of a test? Will they have a medical procedure? Some companies also conduct personality tests. They will do perhaps an MBTI or an Enneagram or a disc analysis or maybe a Gallup test. All of these are fun and they're interesting. They'll tell you things about yourself, so don't feel fearful to take these tests. When you're doing these tests, be watchful to give your honest and true answers. And a lot of companies today are concerned about the kind of people they are hiring, not only the kind of work that they do. What are their strengths? How do they think? How do they deal with in tough situations, etc. Your CV is the first thing that a company sees about you, so it represents you. So it's important to keep it updated. I receive so many CVs that I'm looking and aghast at the kind of updation that they have in their CVs. The CV cannot be long. It has to be to a maximum of 2 pages. So therefore the information you share needs to be crisp but clear and relevant to the interviewer. The CV should ideally not be larger than 12 fonts, single spacing in terms of lines. It should be a comfortable font to read, not something that's in your face. It should not be slanting letters. And you cannot have the same CV being sent to different companies. If you're talking about, say, a client servicing position, what exactly you have done in client servicing? How have you been able to impact a particular client's life? What kind of projects you handled? How many projects you handled? All of that needs to come into your CV. First person who sees it in a company is the HR head. Sometimes not even the HR head, it's the recruitment consultant. So the recruitment consultant sees it, doesn't sound good, and he may not even pass on your CV to the HR, right? So you got to be certain that your CV is relevant to the job that's being offered. So understand the job description and then update your CV accordingly. Sometimes candidates don't even get called for an interview because their CV just doesn't look good enough. Because if you can't even present your CV, your own document which represents you, how can you represent their company? So your CV becomes your own brand identity. How it looks, how it reads, how it flows is really important. There's a lot of templates out there that make CVs look all fancy. You can choose templates, but ideally choose something that's simple and easy to access in terms of information. One thing you should not do in a CV is add things like references and parents' details and hometown details. Not required. If a company wants that, they will ask it, and that's when you will provide it. Okay. Another thing I've seen in a lot of CVs is signatures at the end. I hereby this thing, etc., etc. We don't want to see that stuff. We want only clear, crisp information about you. When you submit a CV by email, we assume that you are being honest and straight about all your qualifications, the experience you've had. It's nice to have things about your hobbies, but do not make an endless list. A simple, crisp list or a short paragraph about 2 to 3 lines should be good enough explaining about what you enjoy doing as a person. For example, enjoy cricket, or you enjoy, say, watching movies, or you're the kind of person who watches plays, then that tells us something about you, that you're a team person, for example, if you like cricket. If you play cricket especially, if you enjoy music performances, that tells me something about you. I'm saying that, oh, this person is artistically inclined. And if the ethos of my company or the culture of my company is that way, then I definitely want to meet this person. What I also find interesting and valuable is to include links of your social media so that people can get to see exactly what you're all about on a social front as well. Documents is always something that I've wondered whether it's required, because very few companies have actually looked at the documents at the interview stage. Nevertheless, if there is an interviewer who is wanting to see your documents, so the ones to carry are usually your graduation certificates, your post-graduation certificates, internship certificates, or the kind of job certificate, or a full and final certificate, or something related with the kind of work that you've done. I don't think school certificates in terms of, the sports you played, where you came first and all that matters. Once you're an adult, companies are usually looking to see how you have performed in your work sphere, and that's really important to carry. So do make certain to carry those documents along with you. Reading up on current affairs. This, I cannot even tell you how important this is. That interview that I screwed up on, one of the questions she asked me about the industry that she was working in, and I had not read up enough. That was a complete mess up. So what happened is, I tried to make up stuff, and that is even worse. Apne pair pe kulhari marne wali baat hai. If you don't know an answer, just say you don't know. Don't pretend to know. And that's the worst thing you can do. And so you can say that, yes, I don't know right now, but I'd be happy to read up and get back to you. So things that you need to do before the date of the interview. Understand the venue, where exactly it is, how to get there, what kind of clothing you're planning to wear. If you're coming from outside, from work, what's really important for an interview, especially for the women out there who are trying to make their careers happen, I would warn you to please not wear uncomfortable shoes and also not wear uncomfortable clothing. It's important to look smart, yes, but it's also important to be you, all right? Be the person who's going to be there in the office that they're going to see. So don't create a pretend person like a Barbie doll or someone like that who's trying to be near perfect and then come to office looking like completely different. Planning the attire is really important. For women, I'd like to advise, jackets look really good, but so do Indian wear. I mean, I'm wearing a sari today and I'm so comfortable in this clothing. Not something glittery and glammy, but something simple, something smart, something that's trendy, something that's neat, something that's not tearing or the buttons broken or anything like that. The setup is a really formal organization. It should be formal clothing if the culture of the company is formal. If it's a semi-formal kind of culture, then you can be semi-formally dressed. You can wear things like trousers. Bohemian clothing for me is really the coolest thing. I wish I could join companies like that have that kind of clothing, because it just makes me feel I'm totally at home. A casual atmosphere, of course, is completely jeans. I know enough companies that have an atmosphere where you wear jeans and t-shirts and, just loose shirts and shorts too. But when you go for the interview, you go formally dressed. But they need to see that you're serious about what they're doing. For the guys, similar things, depending on who you're meeting. If you're meeting top management, please wear your jackets or your ties, depending on how you're meeting them, where you're meeting them also depends. If you're meeting them off-site, maybe at a restaurant or maybe like, in a 5-star hotel, then accordingly dress with a jacket. I think that's highly recommended. Carry your jacket on your arm. It's totally fine to do that. If your interviewer usually is not wearing a jacket and he is looking comfortable in his shirt and pant and his tie, then you can choose not to wear your jacket too. You can just sling it on the back of your chair. If it's a semi-formal or a casual sort of atmosphere kind of company, you could wear jeans and t-shirts. First impression that you make is the way you walk or the way you present yourself. So how you're looking is important, how you smell is important, how you've done your hair is important. Use the right amount of deodorant, not something so strong that your interviewer is getting intimidated with the smell. Your handshake is one of the most critical things, because that's the first contact you make with the person when you meet him or her. So I'm going to show you a couple of things to do and not to do for handshake. Do not do a double handshake. Do not keep shaking the hand. Ouch! Do not crush the hand. Do not press the hand down. Do not just place your hand. Do not shake the fingers. Do not shake hands without eye contact. Wipe your hands well and dry before you go in for the interview. If you are a junior, wait for the person to stretch his hand out or her hand out to greet you. Holding it completely like this, so just shake firmly for 2 seconds and that's enough. Another few tips for the interview, actually when you get there. Be really pleasant with the coordinator because it's important how she or he presents your CV. The elevator pitch is one of the most important things that you need to keep in mind while going in for an interview. So imagine a situation where you're taking the elevator, you press the button and the door is shut and you're alone with the interviewer in that elevator. What would you say to him or her so that they're damn impressed with you and they say, yes, we'd like you to join us? Do not be nervous. Remember this, that the interviewer sitting across the chair was one day sitting right here where you are. He or she also started out somewhere young. It's totally okay to be slightly nervous. Your stomach is getting butterflies and that's a good sign, trust me. That means you're completely present. That means you're focusing where you are. So before you go in for the interview, this is something that I usually like to do. There's so much clutter in our minds. This is happening at home, at work, on the way. This one had a fight, this one said something like this, blah, 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 blah. So much noise. And of course, there's social media, right? So usually what I like to do is turn my phone into airplane mode, close my eyes for exactly 5 seconds and just say, I'm going to do my best. And you will. So once it is your turn, knock on the door first. Even if it's a door that's open, it's a good thing to knock so that if the interviewer is busy with something, then you need to sort of get his attention back to you, all right? So he looks up or she looks up at you and says, yeah, please come in. And that's when you walk in. Greet them. So they obviously would respond by saying, yeah, good evening, good morning. Maybe they're preoccupied. Say, yes, sit down, sit down, sit down. They'll say, that's when you sit down. Okay. So if the interviewer is busy with doing something, let them finish and only then speak. If they have not extended their hand, ideally do not bother to do that because that's maybe not something that he or she is comfortable doing. Document file, keep it in front of you. Sit upright. Do not sit too much comfortably at the back. Keep your bag down. Don't keep your bag in front of you like this because it's covering your front then. And usually, if there's a table in front of you, it's a good thing to keep your hands like this. It just sort of centers and focuses, gets your complete attention to yourself. It's usually nice to know from the person, how does he or her describe herself? So it's a good question to ask, and it's very likely that they're going to ask you that. So you should be prepared. Nobody knows you better than yourself. You're the best person to present yourself. So make certain that you collect your thoughts, like I said, the elevator pitch, the few important lines that you need to say about yourself that will showcase you the strongest. You do not need to say, I am Priya Sharma Shaikh. They know that, the CV is in front of them already. I completed my BMM 2 years ago. Ever since I'm working with so-and-so company and I'm now looking to take a change. My biggest strength is that, I love digital media. As a person, I love playing cricket and I love watching plays. I'm also a person who is a great team person and I enjoy, working on challenges. One of the questions that could come to you could be a trick question, or it happened to me when I was interviewed by years ago. I'm talking about Modi Xerox, and he asked me, what is 0.1% of 1? And I was confused. I was just nervous. I forgot everything. So in a situation like that, when someone's giving you a trick question, he says, all right, can I use my calculator? If an interviewer asks you to do a SWOT analysis, which is your strengths, weakness, opportunities and threats. So take your time to think about it. Ideally, it's a good thing to think about these even before you go into the interview, you're ready with your answer. So once the interviewer has finished asking you all the questions, it's a good thing to ask them when exactly you expect to hear from them. Say, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you, ma'am or sir. I hope to hear from you soon. Get up, shake their hand, and of course, collect all your documents, your bags, etc. and leave as silently as possible. Thank the coordinator before you leave. It's a good thing to be in touch with people, support people who work with top management because they're the ones who finally help you get to them. Do not make it larger than what it is. What I usually advise is that you should not overthink. People tend to say, I'm sure I'm not going to get this job. And sure you won't get it then. Why would you get it if your mind is saying you're not going to get it? Tell the universe, I'm going to ace this interview, I'm going to get this job, and you're sure to get it. Right? Depending on, of course, the fact that you have the right qualifications, you have the right experience, etc. But if you go with a blocked mind, if you go with doubt in your mind, it's very unlikely that you're going to do well in the interview. So go believing that you can do this job and you can do a fantastic value add to this company that you're meeting. Because when you believe in you, you will build you. So therefore, believe and trust in yourself that you will do your best in the interview. Your career is an endless path. Don't take yourself so seriously. Give yourself some time to understand the routine of setting into it. Yeah. So similarly, interviews as well. Keep the steps in mind. follow them dutifully. Make certain that you remember that every interview is a learning process. So be like a sponge. Understand the kind of questions that they ask. If you don't make it into one interview, there will always be another. Learn from every experience that you have. Every time you meet a person, the kind of clothing, the way they keep their desk, the way they work, the way they respond, the kind of questions they ask you, the kind of perspective they have, the kind of test processing that they make you go through, all of that is a learning process. And all of this teaches you something about yourself, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what could be the threats that you could be dealing with, etc. So get ready to go out there and ace your interview. So I'm going to repeat the checklist once again. Read up about the company. Understand the selection process well in advance. Update your CV. Carry the appropriate documents for the interview. Read up on current affairs. It is really critical to know what's happening within the country. Keep in mind what to do a day prior to the interview. Plan your interview attire well. Remember the handshake tips. Go through the tips that I gave you about the interview process, and then of course reflect on your learning. And with that, I'd like to wish you adieu and all the very best. I'm sure you're going to do well. And if you don't, you can always reach out to me at priya@etcindia.net and I'll be happy to help you.